Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our ESSEC Alumni webinar. For those who do not know me, my name is Ian Ong, and I'm the Alumni Relations Manager for ESSEC Asia Pacific. I am very happy to introduce our alumni speaker for today, Stephenie Teo, who is Head of Learning and Talent Management for Bank of Singapore. She will be speaking on the topic, Back to Basics, the New Work Culture. Should you have any questions that you'd like to ask the speaker, please ask them via the chat group. We will try our best to answer them during the Q&A session. Without further ado, I shall now pass the mic over to Stephenie.
Hey, thank you very much, Ian, and thank you for having me in this Friday afternoon. Thanks everyone for taking time to be here today. I hope you are either having your lunch or have already had your lunch, right? It's TGIF. I'm also feeling really good as well. And connecting back with my ESSEC peers and community over here. Now, today I would like to take some time to kind of deliberate with you know what really has the post-COVID world done to the business world. How has the work climate changed? And more importantly, right, as a leader, as a business leader, what really should we be doing in today's world? So let's hit the ground running and go ahead. I hope you're seeing my slides. Great. Everyone would recognize this, and especially I know some of my peers are in this call as well. Thank you so much for taking time to support me over here. This is the Empire State Building that we had visited while we were students at ESSEC. We recall one of the modules was in Boston, and we took a weekend, right, to visit New York and really painted the town red over there. So I recall at the point of time, it was the thing to visit the Empire State Building. A couple of us decided to do the touristy thing and went up Empire State Building. Very busy, a lot of people, but it was hype of just being at the top of the world. And if every one of you have watched the Spider-Man movie, you will also imagine Spider-Man clinging on to, you know, Empire State Building as well, right? But today, you know, look at the right-hand side, what is happening over there, there's nobody. In fact, actually, in one of the documentaries that I was seeing, it's really quite sad. They were talking about entertaining visitors again and what are some of the precautions that they will take. But really, some of the businesses that are located in Empire State Building, we actually don't know when they will return back. And Shutterstock, one of the companies which actually, you know, if you do a lot of PowerPoint presentations, you might actually buy pictures from them. They have actually invested heavily in office space over there, and they have decided not to go back even post-COVID. So there's a lot of sunk costs. And the COVID world has also shown to us, right? Many of us are deliberating, do we still need office space today, right? Now let's move on. This scene, very familiar, probably a couple months back at the peak of everything else. It's a very intensive affair, also very, very sad as well, right? Seeing that, you know, a lot of streets out there are empty, but yet the beds in the hospital rooms are filled and even filled to the brim. Right? It's a stark contrast from what we have seen earlier. Right? My friends who are in the healthcare business, they're really fighting for every life, you know, every minute really counts. And, you know, being in the ICU, it is not easy, right? To really deal with the emotions that charge them. After all, they are human beings. They also get tired, they're exhausted, and they also do their best, you know, for their patients as well. It's also really sad to hear that some of them didn't want to go home because they don't want to infect their loved ones, right? Okay, now swing back the scene back to office again. In the past, you know, like where we are, we sit very near to one another. In the past, if you have huge titles, you probably own your own rooms. People had to knock on your glass doors before entering. Then they decided to, you know, do collaborative open spaces. They built, you know, beautiful offices. I'm sure many of us would probably had the opportunity to visit some new age, like WeWork, you know, type of collaboration spaces. Even offices like Google, LinkedIn, you know, beautiful interior design offices where you have a lot of brainstorming, ideation area. People are just huddling with one another all the time, discussing about the next business proposal, talking about the next process improvement. And all you can do is basically swing behind and your colleague is just, you know, just right next to you. That's just a human connection. But I can tell you today, I have been at home for the last 5 months. I've never been back to my desk. There's probably a huge layer of dust already on my desk. My bottle of Moscato that was given to me by the team for my birthday is still not yet drunk. I'm looking forward to the day when I can, you know, toast and cheers them. When it's Friday, I'm going to have a team meeting later. I will take my soju as well as, you know, my bottle of whiskey out, and well, we'll do a virtual drinks, and that has been my way of life, engaging with the team these days. And we talk shop and talk rods at the same time, right? While really remembering that we still have an empty office space. Yeah, and really, I mean, I still recall the very first day, you know, as a team lead. We were all making very tough decisions, right? The cases were going, I mean, I'm based in Singapore. The cases were looking all right. There's only probably one tourist case that came in from Wuhan in January, and we're thinking, okay, that's very isolated. But lo and behold, you know, it really just spread so quickly, and we had to make hard decisions. And one of the things that I needed to do, and way ahead of everyone else who was still deliberating, I still recall, I had to run a strategic management meeting with all the CEOs and C-suite. And we had to bring in a prominent facilitator from the UK. So the decision was whether to go ahead or not, right? If he comes, will he be quarantined? Or maybe he cannot even get home. Or maybe he could not even be here, right? And yet at the same time, the strategy workshop was so important to us. Well, in the end, the government made the decision for us, okay? So everything was locked down and nothing, you know, happened. But you know, these are the challenges that face us as leaders, right? Then on the spot, we just have to make these decisions. They could be multi-million-dollar deals, or it could be just, you know, another day today. But it matters to everyone, you know, how we could have done it or how we would have handled it. This is where we are today. In fact, I would really share that it's one of the toughest leadership tests around, and really tough for any organization, right? It is really unprecedented. No one would really have, you know, guessed to the extent, you know, a little virus like this could cause, you know, everyone to stay at home. There is no textbook. I'm sorry, ESSEC didn't teach me what to do. The EMBA courses, the MBA courses didn't discuss what to do in a crisis. There was no Harvard case to ponder, right? There was no playbook to reference, but everything really happened on the fly. And I remember, you know, those days when we really had to get to action. We had to cancel client meetings, you know, we had to reshift our technology, you know, from a very face-to-face engagement, because mine is a private banking business. It's all about human relationships. It's all about meeting face-to-face. And today, suddenly we are saying, hey, sorry, Mr. Client, I can't meet you. In fact, it's not good for you if I were to meet you. Right, and we were just starting to ponder, what about our trading systems? Can we still serve our clients effectively? You know, when we are working from home, if can we still advise them? What about the overall macro climate, right? Businesses, the climate overall is there's basically a bearish market that's looming. You know, how do we actually, you know, make sense of all these things, right? And literally, we had to shift the whole office to go home. And these are some of the things that we had to consider. But I think what I really learned out of it is this really age-old saying that says, crisis doesn't build character, but it really reveals it, right? And there's so many things, frankly speaking. I mean, in business school, we learned that, you know, we have to take charge, we had to lead, right? We have to strategize. But at the end of the day, you know, what really matters? It's really about people, right? At the end of the day, I mean, it's the people that makes things happen, right? It's the people that gets things done. And what I have learned in my organization, and I must say kudos to everyone over there, is really the resilience, right? As a whole company, you come together, whether it is relationship managers or even our IT colleagues, working hand in hand together to make sure that, you know, everyone is well taken care of internally and also external. And that's that common vision that really binds us together. And that's corporate culture all about, right? corporate culture really happens, when everyone is beating at the same heartbeat. So this is really a test of, some of the most difficult leadership around, because sometimes information comes drips and drabs, from everywhere, and we just have to make sense of it. In fact, I was just deliberating, in one of a conversation about how we select high potential within the organization, which means to say that people who are slated for leadership positions, right? Or what we call them, the future stars, the future leaders. And one of the trademarks that we really look for is really the ability, right? The self-awareness, that's number one. But that learning agility and that capacity to be able to put together things that have happened in the past, connect the dots, and very quickly put them, into the new world. And that is what it's all about, because things are evolving. But we all thought that with digitalization, right? Wow, it's disruption. It's a lot of, macro trends, a lot of paralyzing, forces that's hitting the business, and we got to evolve. So we have meetings to plan about what is the next, digital wave that will hit. We have meetings, to plan where's the next green field that we are going in. But really, right? Nobody actually teaches us how do we deal with when a staff asks, I had a staff who asked me, sorry, Steph, you know what? My boyfriend went to the gym, and the gym was infected, because there was a group of people who visited the gym. Should I come into office? And how do you answer? Simple things like that you stumble. If they ask you about, okay, yes, let's get this done, let's get going. But they ask you these questions, and seriously, rather than say, okay, please go and check with your HR, I think as a leader, we just need to take the call to say, all right, that's fine, stay at home. We will account to HR. I think this is in the best interest for everyone. These are little things that happen, and it goes on the fly, but it makes a lot of difference. And the staff was also very confused. She was afraid as well, right? Because she was taking her temperature like every day and telling me, and she had to be quarantined for 2 weeks because she ultimately got the call from the government, to stay home. And yeah, it was difficult for her, right? Because she doesn't know, touch wood, was she infected or not? And then she had to, make sure that she's well, her boyfriend as well. They couldn't meet for 2 weeks. It's very, very tough. And so we try to help her, right, by giving her some care pack, making sure that at home, she's well taken care of because her mom was working, and things like that. And these are the things that really makes people feel, right? But about the staff engagement, I would say, and engagement is one of the very, very key things in corporate culture. So what is the role of a leader now? I don't want to be just talk. If I may engage you a little bit, I can see whether I can see the chat group. If you would indulge me a little bit more. Right, what is the role of a leader? What do you think a leader does? Is it all about titles? Is it all about having head of something or a VP of strategy? What is it? I would love to hear from you. Oh, I see a question. How do you share space first? I'm happy to have a discussion with you. I'll finish the conversation and we can do this. Anyone? No one? That's fine. So actually we post this to the leaders in my organization. Everyone came out with very, very, if I may, in humbleness, say that, hey, someone who takes charge, someone who with the charisma, with the gravitas. And then one person that actually took every one of us by surprise, right? And it really stuck on me. So he said, when you turn your back and when you go in the other direction, how many people will follow you? And then all of us went, actually, that's true. Right? They may take our orders, because we are 1 rank higher, 2 ranks higher, And they may do it, but do they do it, with a lot, with that respect, with that motivation, that buy-in, or they're just doing it for the sake of, because it's an order that came barking down, right? And that is like so true. At the end of the day, a leader is actually, why would they believe you? What is your cause? What do you stand for? Right? Okay, moving on. Let's see. So this is, what most people say: empowerment, inspiration, leading change, sharing a vision, this is leadership, right? In all the leadership programs, this is what we have been taught. It's so inspiring. It is, I would say, pardon my language, but textbooks. But bring that alive. What does that mean? I'm sure many of you will recognize these two people. Actually, they have become my favorite, especially, I'm all for women's leadership. In fact, I just opened the women's network in my organization and really championing that. I am a believer, that more women should step up, and I'm all for mentoring young women to help them in their career. So this lady over here is definitely, one of my favorite. I'm in all of her. But let's talk about the gentleman. Anyone knows who is he? If you have watched NBA, you will know who is he. Adam Silver, right? He's a commissioner of the National Basketball Association. So way back, in the United States, when Donald Trump was having his lofty ideas about COVID and his plans around it, back on 11th of March, right? He has actually taken a very surprising step. And what did he do? He suspended the whole professional basketball league for the season. Oh my gosh, do you know how much that will cost? Right, let me just give you the numbers over here. NBA, right, in revenue in 2019 is worth $8 billion. $8 billion is the amount that we're talking about. Imagine all the matches that he has cancelled. How much would that cost the entire NBA and the players, right? And the fans are so disappointed. There's nothing to watch, right? Well, would you, as a leader, take this decision? It's hefty. You have to weigh between money and question mark, what's next, right? And what about this lady over here? When everyone says that, she probably has overreacted by closing down New Zealand. Let's see who has the last laugh today, right? Her decisiveness, right? Actually, with only 50 over cases, if I recall, about 21st of March, perhaps, she has, already kind of set some plans in place. But I think around a couple of days later, the number of COVID cases actually spiked quite a fair bit. And only about 200 plus cases, she has decided, to impose a level 4. Right, that's almost like a red alert, if I may use the Singapore analogy, right? The red alert DOSCON for us over here. And she literally, took a hard decision. A petite lady like her, but still in metal, decided to say, hey, let's, all go back to our homes, right? And have practiced social distancing, right? I think that's the best for the country. But what is admirable and very impressive about her is she was very relatable, right? She came out and she talked about it. She understood, the concerns people had and prepared them for it. And more importantly, she uses the COVID Alert 19 system, which is already very similar to, I think, their New Zealand fire system. So they could understand the 4-step very easily. So when the time comes for execution, she was able to execute very swiftly, and people complied because they knew what was in for them. They knew what was the common cause, and they knew what it means for them and their families. And her parting words were this, if I may quote, as she ended her 8-minute speech, I recall, like, to the entire country: please be strong, be kind, and unite against COVID-19. That was her strong parting message. How empowering, how fruitful it was, and it was very heartening. Now, what did I take away, you know, from these two lessons, and also my very own lessons, you know, as a business leader in the COVID climate, where we are faced with making decisions on the fly all day long, all week long, right? At the end of the day, to me, it's really about putting people first. And the work culture is the basic, that's the fundamental. If you put your people first, the work culture will be there automatically. In fact, if I may also give you another quotation over here, you know, for Ritz-Carlton, I think one of their credos actually state, you know, ladies and gentlemen, that includes ladies and gentlemen referring to their very own staff, is that they treat their own staff as ladies and gentlemen, just as any guest who walks through the doors of Ritz-Carlton. They are equally important, right? And let me just share with you this quote by this author, John Stanbrook. He says, you can only understand people if you feel them in yourself. At the end of the day, it is all about human empathy. In this COVID itself, it is about life and death, right? We read about hospital beds, talk about it earlier, there are no beds. Also very sad to hear about refrigerated mortuaries because there aren't enough spaces. You read about virtual goodbyes because you cannot say your goodbyes, but you read about them, you know, holding an iPad, saying goodbyes. You read about cases where people go into the hospital not knowing if they will ever come out. And remember, you cannot even visit. It is solitude. It is solitude. You read about solidarity funerals. No one can attend except the priest. It is lonely. But you also read about hope. You read about human resiliency. You read about people stepping up to say, this is what I will do. You read about 100-year-old, you know, surviving the crisis, right? Despite everyone, the statistics showing that, you know, the age group are more vulnerable to this. And you read about people coming together, and the healthcare workers so selfless and so noble, you know, to be there for their patients. You read about how they go their way out, you know, to make Hari Raya a very important, you know, festival for our Muslim colleagues, right? To make sure that they also feel that these important milestones are celebrated. And likewise, in the business world, we cannot undermine the importance of empathy and human connection to forge that work culture. You as a leader, again, if I may quote Spider-Man, right? It's about huge responsibilities. A big power, actually, it doesn't equate to big money. It's a lot of burden. It's a lot of responsibilities. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I always tell my coaches and mentees. Don't be a leader just because you see it as a career ladder, you know, to earn more money, be visible, be respected. One will only gain respect, right, when you lead with your heart, right? Be a leader because you want to influence, because you want to impact lives. And there are many kinds of leaders, right? There are business leaders, but everyone is a leader in your own right. You are taking charge of your life, and therefore you are a leader in your own right, right? And a leader is about connectivity. And back to Jacinta again, what happened, right? During the terrorist attacks in New Zealand, she actually wore a hijab and went down to the community, even hugging them and consoling them, right? It is not about, you know, hardline business. Yes, we may have the latest AI, and this is what drives, you know, business trends today. Digitalization is also one of my pet topics. I love, you know, the digital world, technology age. and even very intrigued, you know, by things to come. But there is an ethics behind it. Think about data democratization. And when you train a machine, what do you train the machine with? It is how one actually looks at data and feeds the machine, right? So if you feed the machine in a way that the data is biased, wouldn't the algorithm churn out biased data as well? Right? And likewise, where is the objectivity and neutrality of things? And so leadership is responsibility. Leadership is about, you know, taking sense of everything and being partial about things. And so you can only do this if you have human empathy, that you're able to put yourself in different people's shoes and then to be able to take in and listen to them. Okay, for my Chinese friends, you will probably be very familiar with this word. It is a very traditional word describing listen. And up to date, I know it's a very dated concept, but I still love it very much, right? Because it really encapsulates what is listening about. And I am guilty of it as a leader. You know, most of the time, if I'm tasked with a project and I will go, okay, bam, 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 where's your project vision? Where is your Gantt chart? You know, let's get things going because I'm ready to go. But actually, sometimes we need to take a step back, right? And listen. And really, if you really look at design thinking is all about listening, right? You're listening out to what your clients want, right? You're listening out to, you know, what is the best product. You're listening out to how they are using the services. It all begins, it's back to basics, as what my title suggests. Everything is basic. Listening is also basic, but we don't listen, right? Especially, you know, pardon me to my male friends over here, most of the time the husbands don't listen, and likewise the husband will say the wife doesn't listen, right? It is human nature. Right, so let me just unpack this a little bit for you. In Chinese, this is pronounced as ting, listen, right? And the Chinese character, right, really depicts it. Ting with the ear on the left-hand side. So I pointed the ears over there. But when you listen, all right, you have to, if I may take you in a clockwise direction, you have to give complete attention. So the shi, which is colored green, right, tells you that, hey, you need to give the individual complete attention. You need to be present. You need to immerse in the conversation, right? There are different levels. People know when you are just listening for the sake of listening, and people know it when you're empathetic listening, okay? That's a gut view, that's a sense. Then there must be the eyes, right? You see the purple, so it looks like a pair of eyes. So you have to look at the person with one heart. So one is an E, and then you have the heart, which is coded yellow. So you look complete attention, you give complete attention with one heart, one mind, and then you become the king of listening. And that's something that I put across to you with your team members. And I'm again guilty of it again, right? Because we are all so busy, they will come in with a proposal and you'll be half, you know, listening to it. But really, be present. And that is the art of coaching and mentoring as well, giving people your time, right? In the midst of this very busy world, that actually goes a very, very long way. So, with all the climate that is happening right now, I talk so much about, you know, COVID, and I'm sure you all have your own journeys as well as challenges as well. What is then our response, right? Should be, I think, the new work culture to be. And as a leader, you drive that. So what should we be doing? Let me just give you 4 tips over here. And I found this really useful. And I'm still fine-tuning it as well as we go along, because it is also important as a leader to have self-awareness skills. Right? I mean, those of you who are football fans, Liverpool fans, congratulations to you. Okay, you know, in the football field, let me just give you this analogy. What do they do during halftime? Do you think they take a shower? Or do you think they slouch on their bench? Or, I don't know, maybe give a call to their girlfriends? No, they don't. they're 101% on the game. What they will be doing and the coaches will be doing is to do a replay on what happened in first half, of the game. And they will start looking at, hey, what should I be doing better in the next game? Who are the players to mark? Where shall we corner in? What are the strategies, basically? And likewise, in the same spirit, we also need to pause, right, and reflect. So leaders, the very first thing when crisis mode, don't jump into crisis management mode. Tune in, reflect, right? Have a sense of what is happening. Have a sense, of connecting the ground, walking the ground. Give a helping hand when needed, just be able to make sense of patterns that's happening. Right? And then quickly, then more importantly, regulate your own emotions. Now, you can't help other people if your cup is unfull. And that is very important. You can only help when your emotions are under control. So if you are feeling that, you are not in that right space, check out. Find the time to give you back that energy. All right? Next, tune out. Because now you take care of yourself. You know what is going on. You're making sense of what's happening for yourself and outside world. Tune out. Reach out to your people, right? Let go of emotion as well. Be vulnerable. People want to see authenticity, right? They probably connect better with someone who says, hey, I'm feeling the same as you, right? I'm equally lost. Let's do it together. Let's, find a solution. We are in it together, and no one is going to fault you, right? For saying, for showing that vulnerable side of you. In fact, it will help you humanize the whole experience. And when you tune out, you actually listen out as well. You pick up cues, right? And you know what is happening. And then you build a sense of belonging. You tell them, we are in it together. Give them psychological safety. Let them let out as you let out as well. Feel with them and give them a warm welcome. Make them feel appreciated. And the last point brings me to taking care of your people. It is extremely important. A very, very short note. Appreciation goes a very, very long way. It could be just a very simple word of thanks. Thanks for getting this through. Thanks for holding out. I know that it is hard for you. You have 2 kids at home. They are on home-based learning. They are driving you nuts, right? I know the project deadline is looming. Yes, we have a project to work on. Is there any way, how can I support you to make sure that it is get on time, right? Sometimes it's not about delaying the timeline. It doesn't work. And most of the time, we all know people are very last minute as well. So important is engage in the journey with them. Show them that you support them, that you are always caring for them, and ask about their families, right? Check in with them. They could be singles living alone, and I can tell you that is very, very lonely because they're all cooped up alone. There's no one to talk to. Perhaps they can, binge on Korean dramas, all night, but there's only so much that you can do it, and it really gets very, very lonely, right? Especially during the lockdown, you cannot even visit parents or brothers or sisters, right? And it's literally alone. There might be virtual channels. It is difficult. Families-wise, it's also difficult, right? Of course, those of you with big bungalows, you can move from rooms to rooms. But others, if you really want to coop up in a 1-bedroom, that is also very difficult as well. So check in with your people. What I've done for my team is I surprise them by sending them food. So I will give them Friday treats, and most of it are alcohol from me. Very unfortunately, that's not very good for the liver. But at the end of the day, simple act of kindness really, really goes a long way. And think about it. Would a robot do that? I don't know, maybe if it's R2-D2 in Star Wars, they may do so, but at this present time, probably not. So with that, that's our response. But down beneath the iceberg is something very, very core to us, right? That really shapes, who we are, what our identity is all about. So I would urge you to think, what are your core values? What do you stand for? What do you, believe in? And what do people say about you? Does it align with what you want to be perceived? Now, this is a very, very short exercise. It's really about helping you to identify your core values. I'll just pause a little while here. And if you would like to, just glance through the words very, very quickly. The more intuitive, the more it describes you. So just glance through it and kind of pick out 10 words, that you resonate very strongly with, you believe. I'll just pause here, just to give you some time to think this through. And don't worry, I won't ask you to share because I know it's personal, but just a very short exercise to help you think about who you are. And with this, if you have already identified, and don't worry if you're not, I'm happy to just share this with Ian and you can just get this from him. And the next stage you do is once you identify the 10 values, I'd like you to then narrow down to 3. All right, and you have to think really hard. What are the 3 that defines you? Okay, it's not easy to select the 3. Let me assure you that it really takes a while to kind of define it. And it goes through a lot of processing as well. But I guarantee you after doing it, you will be so confident of yourself that you literally, your values will guide you. And before that, I give you a little story about values and why is it so important. Right, in October 1982, I know some of you are, very, very young. You may not know what happened at that point of time. There were 7 people who were reportedly killed, right, after consuming Tylenol capsules. Now, Tylenol, if you have heard of it, right, is actually Johnson & Johnson's flagship product. It was actually used to treat headaches. So we're all very familiar with Panadol, right? J&J actually has a Tylenol product. But imagine being flashed across the Chicago headline, right? That, hey, major disaster, 7 people died. What kind of reputation then would that do to Johnson & Johnson, right? It is life and death again. It is serious. But you know what happened? I give you a tip. Tylenol's market share actually spiked from 33% before the crisis to 48% 90 days. 90 days, mind you, that's almost 3 months after relaunching Tylenol. And you guess how they did that? It is because of their core values as well as the trust that the business is able to recover. At a point of time, the chairman was known as James Burke. He actually made a very, very painful decision to recall Tylenol off the shelf worldwide. So obviously, again, a lot of monetary impact as well. And when he was asked by the press, hey, why did you do that? Is it an, overreaction, right? And he said one thing. He said, I am guided by the J&J credo. And it says, we are accountable, right, to the doctors, to the patients, to the nurses, to the fathers, to the mothers, right, who uses our project, who uses our products. I remember this line very clearly because the impact, it really states people as they are. So that brings me to my point, why core values is important. It not only shapes you, anchors you as an individual, but it will also impact your leadership style as well, and how you lead, how you engage, how you make an impact. And remember, you as an individual actually drives the culture within your team, and your team forms the culture of the organization, right? And at the end of the day, this is a cycle that I see over here, right? And Peter Drucker has actually said that culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? Actually, strategy takes a parking lot. Culture matters. Without culture, you can't drive your strategy. And that's very true. And that is so true because the work that I do in organization development, we can have the best strategy, but if you don't have the PS people in the right place with the right competencies to do that for you, you will never take your strategy alive. And therefore, you need to build the right mindset in your people, because the mind influences the behavior. What you think manifests outside. And that behavior becomes the practice, right? If a company, for example, allows people to be late at every meeting session, it becomes a practice. That is the practice of the organization. But if you follow Swiss clock time, that everyone has to be punctual, it becomes your practice, right? And that is a practice because behavior manifests into the way we do things. And practices becomes an outcome, right? It becomes something that is long lasting within the organization. That is the outcome. And again, outcome will drive mindset, right? New people who join you, as the saying goes, monkey see, monkey do, it's exactly the same, right? It drives us that mindset, and the whole cycle starts again. So with this, I'd like to share with you an article that I thought I resonate very closely with, and how do we, build an organization which is fast to respond as well as collaborative. Some of you would have heard the term Agile quite a fair bit. I'm a big fan of Agile, right? And I truly and strongly advocate that, not all projects can go Agile, right? But we can adopt the Agile mindset. So Agile is a practice, is a concept that has evolved, from the technology software development space. And that there's a lot of good practices that we could learn from Agile to put into what I call team dynamics and team play. Now, so over here on the left-hand side, if you see the triangle, this is a typical organization. Top down, there's a lot of bureaucracy, right? And there's a lot of attention to details, right? And people work in silos. You realize that, hey, this department doesn't talk to that department, or there's no accountability. That department will say, hey, this is not my job. Can you refer to the other department, right? It's very, very specific. But in an agile organization, the catch is this: everyone works in very small teams, right? In fact, the team size should only be 2 pizzas that can fit your whole team, right? So no more than maybe 7 or 8 people. I think that's about right. More than that, I personally feel is a bit too big. Now, when the team is small, when everyone is multifunctional, there are no lines, because people just jump in, right, to get the job done. So you are quicker and more flexible to change, right? Because you are looking at what we call a backlog to clear. And everyone is responsive and accountable. There is very clear direction, very clear vision of how things should be done. Plus, there's no bosses, there's no lines, right? And how do they work? They work on things, they prioritize first, of course. They have a sprint, we call it a sprint meeting, right, to prioritize. And after the priorities get done, people just pick out from the backlog to start working on it. So they knew exactly what to do. It's almost clockwork. It's very simple, easy to understand. And leadership shows direction and enables the action very quickly. In the end, that whole team, right, instead of what a bureaucracy is where there are sub-silos team, in this case, it is a living organization, right? Teams are accountable from end to end. They do everything, they know everything, and most importantly, it is a learning organization. The fact that they know everything, they have to be well-versed in many things, right? And that's not easy to build, because when you start off as a team, what we call is the team member will be a T-shaped person, somebody with a lot of broad-based knowledge, but probably depth in one area. But over time, you want to build it into a pie shape and then an M-shaped individual. And that's where what we call the true epitome of someone who is multidisciplinary. You not only have broad knowledge, but you also have depth of expertise, and you can jump in to cover one another. And for the individual, it is also career growth as well. So what are some of the hallmarks, right, of Agile organization? Number one, there must be a shared purpose, a shared vision. We need to sense, the strategy is embodied across the organization. There's also structure as well, like you have seen in the chart earlier, and there must be process, right? Processes needs to be in place so that it gives structure for people to work. Like it or not, people still need structure to thrive in, but they need empowerment to make the decisions, and that is the difference. And you need people who are dynamic, who are energetic, right, with the passion to get things done, with a can-do attitude. And that last but not least, a very important element in today's world is cutting-edge technology, right? I think fortunately in Singapore, and let's use the home-based learning as like an example, which is probably very close, to many of your hearts. The good news is, fortunately, Singapore has the home-based learning. Otherwise, they would not have been able to shift the schools, back so quickly. And I believe you would have read articles that some companies struggle to put people back at home because they just don't have the infrastructure to do it. So therefore, technology connecting people is important. And do think of, how you can connect people with virtual collaboration tools, right? Like, for example, these days you have your MS Teams where you can collaborate virtually across the world, whiteboard systems, and so on and so forth. And it is very important these days. If you can't meet in person, this is the next best thing. So think about also, in a new world, the job scope and the job roles will be redesigned, right? In fact, I was just discussing about, the company philosophy with my organization. I guess a lot of times, it really sets us thinking, right? Post-COVID, how will the world look like? Do we all get to work from home and never go back to office? Or do we still yearn for the, human connections, and we still want to go out for water cooler chats with our gossip chats with our colleagues, or even lunch sessions? I mean, jokes apart. But I also urge you to think, because the way that the roles are designed will affect your work culture. When it is fully remote, I think that means that people doesn't have to go into office, right? It's really full telecommuting. They're able to work anywhere. And I believe the young millennials will love this, because the young team members in my teams love to have a cup of Starbucks, and then they'll be dialing in from Starbucks, right? Old people like me, maybe I prefer to be at home so that, I can have access to my kids. But just apart, when people are apart, they're not in office, how do you bring people together, right? Then you have hybrid, which seems to be kind of a favored, post-COVID kind of structure around. I mean, I've been seeing quite a fair bit of reports that people actually don't want to go back to work full-time, right? They feel that commuting to work, actually that time to commute, you can actually save on being more productive. That's some of the research that I have actually read around. So a hybrid model, probably you go into office at times, getting the team together. And maybe not, everyone goes in. And last but not least, everybody goes back to office. So think about, these roles that exist and whether your job allows it. Now, if your job allows full remote, for example, then what do you need to do, right? In order to, get people together. If it's hybrid, well, good, you can have a designated day for work meetings, for example, and it's fully on site. Okay, this one, you can meet every day. But a little tip that I have done over the COVID period when we were all at home is I adopt the Agile model of what I call stand-up meetings, right? Not literally stand up, but it's a term that they use, right? And it's in the physical world, in the Agile meeting, they literally stand up for 15 minutes. Why? So that they don't need to sit to have very long meetings. It's just a short update and then off they go, to develop their software. Right, so for me, I do a daily check-ins, 15 minutes, everyone come together, go around, Robin, and just share what will we be working on, what do we want to accomplish. At the end of the week, I get them to talk about their learnings as well, things that they feel that they have done well, challenges that they have faced, and also to reflect how, for the following week, how we could do things differently as well. I know sometimes they feel very draggy, very long, because every day, got to dial in and listen to staff. But I also feel that, and I also get feedback that it is also important, right? That the communication channel is open as well. So every time when there is a message from senior management, I can pass it on to them very quick because I meet them every day. Every day at 11 a.m. we will come together and that's our time. And we make sure that everyone makes that timing block just for the team so that we can come together and update one another. And actually it has gotten, to be a cadence and a rhythm for us. And we find that it even works better than when we are in the office because everyone is on top and abreast is what is happening. So as leaders, it's also very important to communicate and over communicate as well, right? That is something that I have learned and found it very useful. So this is the new workplace, right? Think about what that's going to be. But I'd like to leave you with this, right? Let me just have a time check, okay? If the way ahead is foggy, what would you do? Most of the time, do we drive through it? But there will be insecurity, there will be fear. Do we turn around, U-turn and say, hey, I don't want to get there? Now, if we are feeling this way, how would our team feel, right? How will our team feel? Therefore, clarity of vision is very important, right? And the passion that you derive your vision is important. May I just share very quickly, if I may, a very favorite video of mine, of Jack Ma.
年的时候，我记得我做出的决定，我自己跟自己讲，我可能改变了自己一辈子所从事的事业。而今天，我想把大家请过来，跟大家共同探讨以后至少5年、10年我们要做的事情。那么阿里巴巴我们将做成怎么样？我想，从黄页的时候我就提过，黄页所要瞄准的对象不是国内战略，而是国际战略。我们所有的竞争对手不在于中国，而在于美国的硅谷。如果说第一，我们把阿里巴巴定位，就把它作为国际战略，我们不要把它定位是国内战略。第二个呢，我想就是我们要学会硅谷人的一种拼劲。如果说我们是早上8点钟下班，8点钟上班，5点钟下班，这个不是搞高科技啊，这个绝对不是我们阿里巴巴能成功。如果说我们有这种精神，反正我上班了，反正8点钟上班，5点钟下班了 ，OK， 赶紧去其他地方。人家美国人强就强他的硬件，强就强他的系统建设，这方面确实比你早。但是玩信息玩软的，中国人的脑袋绝不比别人差。我们在座的所有的人的脑袋绝不比任何人差。这就是我们敢跟美国人斗的一些东西，我们绝对敢斗。如果我们是好的 team、好的团队，我们自己知道我们想做什么，我们想干些什么的时候，我相信我们是可以以一挡十。 我们能够赢政府机构，我们能够赢其他很多的民营企业、大的这种企业的是什么？凭的是我们的精神、我们的意识、我们的创新概念，以及我们这种拼劲才能去斗。否则的话，跟他们有什么区别呢？谁都知道 ，Internet 是个泡沫。我刚才讲的危机感就是 Internet 这个泡沫现在越来越，什么时候破？然后呢，把股票掉了，哎，eBay 股票会涨。那么有一天 eBay 股票涨了以后，可能阿里巴巴社区的股票涨，所以不要担心。我觉得 Internet 这个梦不会破，这个泡沫不会破。我们为后面的3、5年所付出的代价是非常惨重，只有这样的惨重的代价，才会赢得我们未来的取得的成功。那么，目标是2002年，阿里巴巴上市。
All right, so that was Jack Ma many years ago when he was still looking very young and with his Alibaba dreams, and that's how he routed his team together. So inspiring, right? Telling people that, hey, you're not going to work 9 to 6, but you're going to make a lot of sacrifice. But he stirred them and said that you have all the brains to make it happen, and that's his goal. That was his strategy of getting people together. And likewise for yourself, you know, what legacy will you leave for your people? What do you want your team, right, to talk about? And one day at your retirement party, what kind of culture would have left in your team that, you know, people remember you as the leader you want them to perceive on. So may I just quote from Mayor, Angelo, she is an author. At the end of the day, people, you know, won't remember what you said or did, but they remember how you made them feel. So may I just leave this quote with you and round up and back to Ian. Thank you so much for having me today. And thank you so much for spending your afternoon with me today.
Thank you very much for the interesting presentation, Stephenie. I got 2 takeaways from today's session as well. The first one is that I'll never look at the word think in the same way again. Well, I never will look at the word the same way. And the second thing I got to take away is that hope that one day you'll be able to send me the Friday care package that you sent to your staff as well. So there'll be some things. These 2 takeaways I have right now from this presentation alone. So I know that we are very mindful of time. I'll just actually leave it just to 2 questions that we have. The first question is, how do you think leaders can better communicate digitally? It seems harder to build the connection.
I think the first and most important thing is to on your videos, right? I think in the absence of physical face-to-face meeting, we should still see each other's body language because that tells a lot. So number 1 rule in video etiquette is to on your videos. Number 2, use voice to connect, right? Use voice to inspire, to energize. And if for the quieter ones who doesn't want to speak out, because mindful that there are different types of people, and that's okay to use the chat, right, to communicate with people. If you have your virtual whiteboard, you can just get everyone to share ideas over there. I think that's very helpful.
Okay, the next question that we have is, how do you actually think shared spaces in offices will be changed post-COVID-19? Do you think that shared spaces will go away? And what is the impact on the organization?
I personally think this is a slide that I have over here, right? I mean, in view of shared spaces, I would still say maybe not at this point. You will still have a cross in some of the spaces because of social distancing. But I do think that over time, it will come back again because that human collaboration, it is still necessary. But for the time being, until a vaccine is found, we might probably be working in cubicles still, you know, with, you know, shields and everything up because that's the best for everyone. But my imagination is, I think after a while, people may just return to some form of normalcy because we still cannot have, we still want that human engagement with one another.
Well, with that, we actually have to end off our Q&A session. I'd like to thank Stephenie for taking the time out to speak about this very interesting topic.
Thank you. See you, everyone.
Thank you. And this really concludes the end of our webinar. Thank you to our participants, and I hope you all have a great day ahead. Thank you, everyone.